A routine delivery goes wrong when a package lands at the wrong house, and the door is opened by none other than Keanu Reeves. What should have been an awkward mix-up turns into an unforgettable encounter, as a nervous courier shares a surprisingly deep and down-to-earth conversation with the movie star. By the time the parcel reaches its real owner, both men have walked away with a story no one will believe. The wrong turn. I wasn't supposed to be on that street that day. I was just a tired delivery driver trying to survive another shift and praying my old van wouldn't die before my paycheck arrived. By 6 in the evening, Los Angeles had that strange golden haze where everything looks beautiful except your own life. Sweat stuck my shirt to the seat, my phone kept overheating, and the navigation app was barking orders like a drill sergeant. I had 3 packages left and a supervisor who'd already warned me. One more late route, Alex, and we're going to have a problem. Rent was due in 4 days. My mom's medical bills had started to stack up on the kitchen table, and I'd already sold my guitar to keep the lights on. It was almost funny if it wasn't so sad. I'd come to LA dreaming I'd work on movie sets one day, maybe behind a camera, maybe just holding a boom mic and watching legends at work. Instead, I watched traffic lights and apartment numbers, chasing signatures instead of dreams. Most days I told myself it was temporary. Lately, temporary had started to feel permanent. The last stretch of my route dragged me up into the hills, where the houses got bigger and the air smelled like money and jasmine. My van complained the whole way, engine rattling as if it knew it didn't belong here. I didn't either. I passed a silver sports car, a couple doing yoga on a balcony, and a kid on an electric scooter who cut across the street so fast I had to slam the brakes. The boxes in the back shifted, one sliding forward and thumping the metal wall right behind my head. My heart pounded. Great, I thought. Last thing I need is an accident. I took a breath, checked my mirror, and pulled up in front of 2815 Ridgeway Drive, a modern glass and wood house that looked like it had its own Instagram account. According to the app, this was my final stop, a medium-sized brown package waiting for its new owner. I grabbed the box, scanned it, and glanced at the label. Liam Torres, 2815 Ridgeview Drive. I frowned. Ridgeview, not Ridgeway, just one letter different. I looked at the street sign outside. Ridgeway, my stomach tightened. I knew what that meant. Wrong street, wrong house. One simple mistake and a package ends up where it shouldn't. The last time that happened, my supervisor wrote me up and gave me a speech about company standards and deliveries being sacred trust. I checked the time. I was already late. To fix this, I'd have to get back in the van, find Ridgeview, fight through twilight traffic, and hope no one at the depot noticed how long my route took. I imagined the email. Alex, we need to talk about your numbers. Numbers, that's what I was to them. Not a person with a sick mom and a broken dream, just a number. Part of me whispered, just leave it here, mark it as delivered, and get out. The houses all look the same up here anyway. The guy will probably get it somehow. Another part of me, the one that sounded suspiciously like my dad's voice, answered back, do it right, even when nobody's watching. My dad used to say that while we watched action movies together on our beat-up couch, he'd point at the screen when the hero made the hard choice and say, courage isn't the big fight, Alex. It's the small decision when you're scared and tired. He died before he could see what I'd turned into. A grown man arguing with his own conscience in the front seat of a delivery van. I sat there for a few seconds, holding the package, feeling the weight of cardboard and consequences. If I fixed the mistake, I might be late enough to lose my job. If I didn't, some stranger's order wouldn't arrive, and there'd be another complaint with my name on it when they traced it back. I wasn't afraid of hard work, but lately every day felt like a test I was failing. A dog barked somewhere behind the gate, sharp and suspicious. A curtain shifted in a window next door. Someone was watching. That made the decision for me. If I just dumped the box and ran, I'd look exactly like the kind of guy porch cameras were built to catch. I sighed, stepped out of the van, and walked up the stone path to the front door. Just knock, explain the mistake, ask if they know where Ridgeview is, I muttered to myself. 2 minutes, that's it. The evening air was cooler up here, brushing my face as I climbed the steps. Lights glowed softly inside the house, warm and inviting in a way my cramped apartment never was. I knocked, 3 quick taps that echoed louder in my head than on the door. As I waited, my mind drifted for a split second to my mom, probably sitting alone in her worn-out armchair, watching some old movie on low volume because she got headaches now. I promised her things would get better. I promised myself the same thing. Footsteps approached from inside. My pulse sped up for no logical reason. It was just another door, another stranger, another moment where I'd have to apologize for a mistake I didn't entirely make. The lock clicked. The handle turned. The door opened, and for a second my brain refused to believe what my eyes were telling it. A man stood there in a black leather jacket, hair falling around his face, eyes kind but tired in a way I recognized. I'd seen that face 1,000 times on screens growing up, on posters, on billboards that felt 1,000,000 miles away from my life. My throat went dry. The world shrank to that doorway, that familiar stranger, and the package growing heavier in my arms. He gave me a small, easy smile, like opening the door to nervous delivery drivers was the most normal thing in the world. "Hey," he said softly, looking straight at me. "You okay?" In that instant, with my job on the line, my life unraveling, and Keanu Reeves standing in front of me waiting for an answer, I realized I was about to make a choice that would change everything. The walk down the hill. For a heartbeat, I just stared at him, every action movie I'd ever watched flashing through my head, all the lines I could quote suddenly abandoning me. Up close, he looked exactly like himself and nothing like the posters, smaller somehow, more human, with eyes that really paid attention when they landed on you. Hi," I finally managed. "Yeah, I'm okay, I think, sorry, long day." He glanced at the box in my hands, then at the label, then back at me. There was no celebrity wall in his expression, no impatience, just quiet curiosity. "Wrong address?" he asked gently. "Yeah," I said, clearing my throat. "It's for Ridgeview, not Ridgeway. My GPS glitched. If I don't get it there soon, my boss is going to murder me." "Not literally," I added quickly, nervous babbling on full auto. "Figuratively, with spreadsheets." The corner of his mouth twitched into a small grin. "Spreadsheets, those are worse." That tiny joke hit me harder than it should have. Something about the way he said it, like he'd been there. Like he remembered what it was to answer to people who didn't know your name. My phone started buzzing in my pocket, vibrating against my thigh with an urgency I recognized. Work. I didn't have to look to know who it was. I muttered, "Of course," and pulled it out. "Alex, where are you?" My supervisor's voice snapped through the speaker before I could say hello. "Your route is already 10 minutes over. You better not be sitting somewhere." "I'm delivering in the hills," I said, turning slightly so I wasn't facing the man at the door, heat rising in my face. "Just had a mix-up with an address." "Mistakes cost us money, you understand that," he barked. "Clock out the second you're done, we'll talk tomorrow, and bring your handheld to the office. I need to review your numbers." The line went dead. I kept the phone at my ear for a second longer, pretending there was more conversation just so I wouldn't have to turn around and meet those eyes. When I finally did, he was still standing there, same quiet attention, but now there was something else in it. Concern, maybe. The look you give somebody who tries to pretend they're fine when it's obvious they're not. "They treating you okay?" he asked. I shrugged, shoulders tight. "It's a job, jobs are loud, rent is louder." He nodded slowly like he understood more than I'd said. His gaze dropped to the label again. "Liam Tours," he read. "Ridgeview, I know that name." "You do?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah," he said, thinking for a moment. "He helped out on a set last year. Young guy, good energy, always talking about stunts." He pointed down the hill with his chin. "Ridgeview's just one street over, easy to miss the turn. If you want, I can walk you there. It's faster than driving around in circles." Every training video I'd seen flashed through my brain. Remain with your vehicle. Do not accept help from customers. Maintain professional distance. At the same time, the math ran itself. Wandering the hills alone would burn 20 minutes I didn't have. Walking with someone who actually knew the area might cut that in half. More than that, though, there was this strange, fragile thread between us now. Maybe it was the way he'd listened to the call without pretending he hadn't. Maybe it was how careful his voice sounded, like he didn't want to push but also didn't want to look away. "Are you sure?" I asked. I don't want to bother you, I can figure it out. You're not bothering me, he said. I was just making tea. Then, with a little shrug that felt almost shy, a walk might be good for both of us. I hesitated, glanced back at my van, then at him. This wasn't in any handbook, but neither was the feeling that if I said no, I'd be dodging something bigger than a wrong turn. Okay, I said. Yeah, let's walk. We moved down the steps together, the evening air cooler now, the sky darkening into deep blue. The street was quiet except for the soft hum of distant traffic and the rhythmic tap of our footsteps on the pavement. For a while, we didn't speak. I could feel words pressing against my ribs, but I held them back. Who was I to unload my life on someone who'd carried entire worlds on his shoulders on screen? You grew up here? He asked eventually, breaking the silence. Not even close, I said, letting out a breath that was half laugh, half sigh. Came from a small town with 3 traffic lights and 1 movie theater. I used to watch your films there and think, one day I'm going to work on something like that. Then life happened. Now I'm the guy who drops off snacks for people who actually made it. He didn't correct me or throw some bright, empty line about every job matters. He just walked a few more steps, thinking, then said, I used to sweep floors in a theater, mopped a lot of spilled soda, got yelled at for missing gum under the seats. He smiled faintly. Dreams don't always start at the front door. His words landed in a place so tired, I'd almost forgotten it was still alive. We turned a corner, cutting between 2 tall hedges, and suddenly Ridgeview opened up beneath us. More houses, more manicured lawns, the same careless wealth. But one house near the curve looked different. The lights were too bright, the front door wide open, shadows moving quickly inside. A woman's raised voice carried across the quiet street, sharp and frantic. Keanu slowed, eyes narrowing. That's Liam's place, he said. Something's wrong. We hurried the last few yards. As we got closer, I heard it clearly. A crash, then a shout of pain from inside the house, raw and scared. He glanced at me, then bolted for the open door. I didn't have time to think about company policy or late routes or anything else. I clutched the package tight against my chest and ran in right after him. The broken landing. The living room looked like a stunt rehearsal that had gone very, very wrong. Cushions were scattered across the floor in a makeshift crash pad, a toppled lamp flickering weakly, and in the center of it all a young guy about my age lay clutching his leg, teeth gritted against the pain. His dark hair stuck to his forehead with sweat, and his right ankle was already swelling under the torn band of a wrap. A woman knelt beside him, early 30s, messy bun, eyes blazing with worry. She whipped her head toward us as we rushed in, ready to snap at whoever else had walked into the chaos, and then froze when she saw who led the way. Keanu, she blurted, disbelief cutting clean through her anger. Hey, Maya, he said, dropping down beside the injured guy with a practiced calm that made the room feel a little less wild. I was in the neighborhood. What happened? Nothing, the guy on the floor groaned. Just a test jump, I almost had it. You didn't almost have anything, Liam, she snapped, voice cracking. You jumped off the stairs onto a chair that wasn't even stable. You could have broken your neck. I hovered in the doorway, suddenly awkward, still hugging the package like a shield. This was clearly their moment, not mine. I considered slipping back out until I remembered the name on the label pressed against my palms. This is for you, I think, I said quietly, stepping forward and setting the box down near them. Liam Tors, I got the street wrong at first. He looked up, eyes flicking from my delivery uniform to the box, then to the man kneeling beside him. Confusion, pain, and starstruck all battled for control of his face. What is this? He muttered, half laughing despite the wince. Some kind of weird dream. Keanu shot him a quick, reassuring smile but focused first on the injury. Can you move your toes? He asked. Liam tried, hissed through his teeth, and nodded. Yeah, hurts like hell though. That's good, Keanu said. Means nothing's completely dead in there. He looked up at Maya. Did you call anyone? She wanted to call 911, Liam cut in, stubborn pride flaring, but we can't afford another hospital bill. I've got the stunt program audition next week. I can't show up with a cast. I just need ice. And maybe duct tape. Maya shot him a look that would have melted steel. You are not duct taping your leg, genius. As they argued softly, the pieces of their life started to fall into place around me. The thin carpet, the second-hand furniture, the stack of envelopes on the table marked final notice. It was the same fight I'd been living in my own way, dreams versus bills, risk versus survival, only here it was all laid out in harsh overhead lighting. Keanu picked up the package and read the shipping label, something clicking in his expression. "This is the brace, isn't it?" he asked. Liam nodded, shoulders sagging. "Yeah, specialized support for high-impact landings. I saved up for months. It was supposed to get here 2 days ago so I could train with it before the audition." He glanced at me, not accusing, just exhausted. I thought it got lost. Guilt hit me harder than any complaint email ever had. My late route, my hesitation on the hill, suddenly felt like part of a bigger chain reaction. If I'd just dumped the box earlier like I'd considered, it would have sat on the wrong porch while this guy launched himself off furniture trying to prove he didn't need help. "I'm sorry," I said, voice low. "It was my mistake. I almost left it at another address, but I didn't." I swallowed, forcing myself not to look away. For whatever it's worth, I'm glad I didn't. Maya's expression softened for the first time, the fight in her shoulders easing just a little. "Thank you for bringing it yourself," she said. "A lot of people wouldn't have bothered." The simple kindness in her words did something strange to my chest, like someone had cracked open a window in a room I hadn't realized was suffocating me. Keanu sat back on his heels, studying both of us. The room fell quiet except for Liam's uneven breathing and the soft electric buzz of the crooked lamp. "You know," he said slowly, "when I met you on set, Liam, you told me you weren't afraid of falling. That's not bravery, that's being young." His gaze moved to me for a second, then back to the injured stunt hopeful. "Real courage is learning how to land even when it's ugly and getting back up anyway." Liam's jaw tightened, tears standing in his eyes that had nothing to do with the pain in his ankle. "If I miss this audition, I'm done. They already think I'm just some nobody from nowhere trying to copy YouTube stunts. This was my shot." "And if you go in broken and push it too far," Maya said, her voice dropping to a raw whisper, "it might be your last shot at walking right. Ever." The silence that followed was thick with everything none of us wanted to say out loud. I recognized the terror in both their faces. Hers, of losing her brother to a dream that didn't care if it crushed him. His, of being forced back into an ordinary life that felt smaller than the fire in his chest. Something in me shifted. I saw my own reflection in him, the kid who left home with a camera in his backpack and a head full of scenes, now reduced to scanning barcodes and apologizing for delays. I could feel the familiar voice rising again. "This isn't your problem. Drop the box, leave, save your job." But another part of me, the part that had followed a stranger down a hill because it felt like the right thing to do, refused to step back this time. "Look," I heard myself say, surprising even me, "maybe the audition isn't over just because today went wrong. You've got the brace now. You've got a week. You just need a smarter plan than jump off furniture and hope." Maya let out a short, unwilling laugh, wiping at the corner of her eye. "He's got you there." Keanu was still watching me, really watching, as if he were reading lines I hadn't spoken yet. There was something thoughtful in his eyes now, some idea forming just behind them. "What do you do, Alex?" he asked. I glanced down at my uniform. "Deliver packages and disappoint my boss." "That's not what I mean," he said quietly. "What do you want to do?" The question hit like a punch and a lifeline at the same time. Nobody had asked me that in a long time, and actually waited for an honest answer. "I wanted to work in film," I admitted, the words tasting strange and new on my tongue again. "Camera work, maybe directing one day. I used to shoot little short films back home, but life got messy." He nodded slowly, connecting invisible dots between all of us. The limping stunt kid, the exhausted sister, the burned-out driver who still cared enough to fix a mistake. "I might know a way to help both of you," he said finally. All three of us looked at him. He stood up, pulled his phone from his jacket pocket, and scrolled to a contact. His thumb hovered for a heartbeat, then pressed call. As the line began to ring, he paced toward the window, his voice calm but carrying a quiet urgency. "Hey," he said when someone answered. "Yeah, it's me. Listen, I need a favor. I've got a young stunt guy and someone with a good eye for story. I think we can use them on something tomorrow. Paid. And I want you to hear their names." He turned back toward us, phone still at his ear, gaze locked on mine and Liam. As our lives tilted on a hinge we hadn't seen coming. "Yeah," he repeated into the receiver, a small, certain smile touching his face. "I think this wrong delivery might actually be the right chance."